Hi friends, and welcome to another video. It's Simon Hurley from Inklips, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Now every once in a while I come across a couple different dies that I think would be great to have a nice mask and stencil to go along with, but I want to make sure that I can use that over and over on cards. So today I'm going to be sharing how to create 2 of these cards and make your own stencils using your dies to get a little bit more use out of them. Now to do this, I'm using Yupo paper, which is made out of polypropylene. I don't really know what that is. However, it's kind of like a plastic substance where it doesn't rip or tear and it's super durable. And it's also got this nice coating on it, so it's easy to clean off once you're done using it. And I like to store it back in with whatever die that I cut out of it. Now also, I like to buy this in a large pack so I can get lots of sheets out of each one, and I cut it down to card-based sizes. And you can use this for other techniques as well, so I find it helpful to invest in this larger pack. However, I know that Ranger did team up with this fantastic company and make it for smaller sheets and kind of bring it to the crafting industry for a lower price point, which can be nice as well. So I'll link to both of these down below so you guys can check it out. And also for this technique, I'm using the translucent Yupo. However, I know that white is pretty helpful with some techniques as well. So starting off with the first card here, I'm actually using the mask portion to create this inked background and resist this 4 Seasons tree die. So this is a super intricate little tree die, and I'm just going to use it alone today. However, you can also buy different add-on dies to make it different seasons and be really creative with that. So I ran that through my platinum die cutting machine with the Yupo cardstock, and then right when this comes out, it cuts through really nicely, but you just have to kind of wiggle it to release it from the background portion there, and kind of move it around. Now this is a super delicate die, however the Yupo paper won't really rip, so you can kind of be a little bit more harsh with it. Now once all that's cut out, you end up with the mask portion of the tree, which is what we're using today, and you also have this stencil negative portion, and you can shove both of those along with the die wherever you store it, and use those on later cards over and over. So then I'm going to add little dots of repositionable adhesive here and there on the back of this tree, and this will hold it down just enough because it's so delicate while we're ink blending, however it won't rip the cardstock later on. So then I'm adding a little border of delicate frog tape here, so that part will be masked off as well, and then I can start my ink blending. I decided to use the Distress Oxides on today's ink blended backgrounds because they're that dye pigment fusion, and since I'm using that craft cardstock, I decided that that would be a really nice vibrant color on top of it. So you won't usually see me using craft a ton, but I like it for Christmas seasons and winter cards. I think it looks great like that. So you'll see a little bit more this winter season of lots of craft cardstock. So I'm ink blending this background, and as I'm doing it, since I have this delicate die, even though it is in place with some adhesive, I do still want to just use a pouncing method rather than rubbing it in like you usually would in circular motions. I tend to just dab the color on, and that keeps the tree nice and in place and doesn't get ink where you don't want it. So then I'm really slowly removing that delicate frog tape, and I find that I have the best luck with this tape. You just want to peel it right back on itself, and I find it doesn't rip the cardstock at all. So after I've peeled off all that tape, you have that nice craft cardstock border that it resisted, and then here's where the magic happens. I'm going to slowly peel back this mask as well, and this reveals that nice craft cardstock underneath of the tree die that you wanted there. So you get a little bit more use out of your dies like this, and some of them look just stunning with masks or stencils like this. So I'm going to then just take some water into a rag, or some stamp cleaner works well as well, and I'm just going to wipe off the excess ink that we have on that mask so you can reuse it over and over. And then also here's just how I wanted to show you guys, this is really durable of a mask. It doesn't rip or tear, and also all these little individual pieces, you can pull them apart, and I'm pulling pretty hard there, and it just goes right back to its normal position. So even if you nick it with your blending tool or whatever, it'll go right back to normal. Now to finish this little tree off, I'm going in with a white gel pen, and I'm just going to go in all those little areas where the craft cardstock is showing on that tree, and just add some little bark texture. So I'm letting the pen skip and not do full areas of this white, but just add some little bark lines here and there. And I find that adding some white pen detail really changes and enhances images just with a little bit of detail inside of them. So with any coloring or anything like that, this white pen does wonders. Now lastly on this card, I wanted to quickly finish it off with some details, so we added little Nuvo drops here and there around the tree to kind of look like little ornaments. Now you could also draw strings and attach them to the tree branches, but I just kept it super simple and scattered some little drops here and there in some Christmassy colors. and this just adds some nice detail and texture onto your card. So for this next card, I'm going to be showing how to use the stencil portion to create these little solid deer, and also I have another little fun technique with dies. So stay tuned, and I cut the deer out of this Yupo paper here, so you have that mask portion and the stencil, and I'm going to just lay that down onto my craft cardstock, and I've lined it up because it's translucent so you can see exactly where it's going. And then I'm going to just blot my ink right inside of that little deer, and you don't want to mess it up or anything by going in circular motions, so just blotting on the ink makes it go on really nicely there. So I'm just making sure it's really nice and covered, and then I'm going to lift that little stencil right off of there, and you have that nice solid deer, which looks like you almost stamped it. So I cleaned that off, and then I flipped over the stencil, and you can get the nice reverse of that deer as well. So this is a fun way to get that reverse image. So I'm just going to blot my ink right inside there again and go in that up and down motion. And that gets on lots of ink, and you can peel right off that stencil. And now I have both of those deer looking right at each other. So I'm pulling my white gel pen out again, and I'm just going to add some little speckles onto the back of these deer to give them a little bit more detail. And this really brings them to life and adds a little bit of color on the back of them. So once that's complete, I'm going to create a little place for these deer to stand. So I'm taking a piece of delicate frog tape again, and I'm going to mask off the top portion of them. And then I can take some white pigment ink with my little finger, and I'm just going to dot on some of that pigment ink right beneath them. Now this makes that little snowbank, and it makes it so that I don't get any harsh lines here or there. And I also get that nice soft snowy color right beneath them. So then once that's complete, I'm going to just take my white gel pen once again and add some little dots here and there of snow on the top portion of that, so it looks like a nice little winter scene where these deer are standing. So once that's all complete, I'm going to move on to our card base. So I've taken some double-sided adhesive and put it onto an acrylic block, and then I'm going to take some snowflake dies from that same deer die set from Spellbinders, and I'm inking those up with some blue ink that's just a little bit darker than my Ocean Mist cardstock from Gina K. And I'm going to just start stamping these dies. So this gives a nice little lined effect, and it doesn't come out perfect, so it gives it kind of a grungy look, and it's not super visible. So this is going to be the background of my card, and it creates a really fun texture with those really tiny lined images because it's those cutting die edge. So I'm just going to keep stamping that down onto my card and giving it nice pressure to make sure that all of those dies transfer at once, and you can create a really fun background like this. So I'm just going to keep stamping and kind of filling in the puzzle there. Now once it starts to get a little bit too tight though, you can then take off one of those dies and just stamp some little individual snowflakes on the edges to fill everything in. So that creates a really fun, subtle background that's kind of tone on tone. And then I heat embossed a sentiment from Concord and 9th stamp set that says, "It's the most wonderful time of the year," on some vellum. And then I'll wrap that around that panel, and I'll add some adhesive on the back to seal it. So that finishes it off for the cards that I'm creating today. I hope you guys found this video helpful. And also this is part of the November blog hop for the new Spellbinders release. So I'll leave a link over at my blog to the next talented designer that you can hop along with. And also there's much more information there about giveaways and the full supplies list that I used in today's post. And be sure to click that subscribe button on screen as well to never miss another video like this one from me. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you again soon for another card making and crafting video. Bye!